Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Canada Immigration. Canada's quiet immigration clampdown. Temporary residents face a shrinking window in 2026. Please hit like and subscribe, and don't for an upcoming video. The update is essential for international students, temporary foreign workers, post-graduation work permit holders, and anyone using Canada's immigration system as a long-term strategy. What's unfolding is not a single rule change, headline, or law. It is a quiet convergence of policy shifts that could determine whether you remain in Canada or gradually lose viable options in 2026. This moment matters because many people still believe the system operates the way it did just a few years ago. That belief is increasingly risky. The pathway that once felt predictable. For years, Canada followed a familiar pattern: study in Canada, gain local work experience, and apply for permanent residence. Millions organized their lives around this structure. They paid international tuition, accepted entry-level wages to build Canadian experience, moved families across borders, signed long-term leases, and invested years into the system with one assumption that compliance would eventually lead to stability. In 2026, that assumption no longer holds the same weight. A system that changed without an announcement. This shift did not arrive overnight. There was no dramatic press conference or single policy that signaled the change. Instead, it unfolded quietly. Study permit caps were introduced. Eligibility lists froze. Processing slowed. Selection criteria tightened. Transition pathways narrowed. Individually, each adjustment seemed manageable. Together, they created a system that allows pathways to exist while making them harder to reach. Many people are not being refused outright, they are simply aging out of eligibility without realizing it. What the 2026 to 2028 immigration plan really signals. Canada's immigration levels plan for 2026 to 2028 appears stable at first glance. Permanent resident targets remain intact. But beneath those numbers lies a clear shift in strategy: fewer temporary residents entering the system and fewer transitioning from temporary to permanent status. That means fewer study permits, fewer work permits, and significantly more competition among those already inside Canada for a limited number of permanent residence opportunities. Temporary programs are increasingly being treated as temporary again. International students feel the pressure first. International students are among the first to experience the impact. Provincial study permit caps have reshaped access to Canadian education. At the same time, post-graduation work permit eligibility is now tightly linked to specific programs aligned with labor market priorities. In 2026, the list of eligible programs is frozen. No new fields are added. No flexibility is introduced. What appears neutral on paper has serious real-world consequences. Students who enrolled years ago are discovering that their expected pathway ends earlier than planned, not because they failed, but because the rules narrowed after they committed time and money. Many only learn this after graduation, when changing programs or adjusting strategy is no longer possible. Temporary foreign workers face a parallel reality. Temporary foreign workers face similar challenges. Canada relies heavily on foreign labor across healthcare, construction, agriculture, food processing, transportation, hospitality, and long-term care. Yet LMIA approvals have become more selective, especially in lower-wage roles. Work permits are increasingly program-specific, limiting flexibility. Provincial nominee programs have reduced intake sizes or narrowed occupational focus. The result is a growing group of workers who are legally employed, paying taxes, and contributing to the economy yet have no realistic transition once their permits expire. Permit expiry is becoming the most common outcome. Here's where the risk intensifies. A large number of work permits and post-graduation work permits expire in 2026. Only a portion of those holders will qualify for permanent residence through existing programs. Loss of status is no longer rare. It is becoming routine. This is not driven by enforcement or removals, but by pathways narrowing faster than people can adjust. Many assume extensions are automatic or that another program will open in time. That assumption is increasingly costly. The most overlooked rule in Canada's immigration system. Canada's immigration system does not protect you simply because you are inside the country. Time spent in Canada does not guarantee eligibility. Intent does not override expiry dates. Maintained status applies only if the correct application is submitted in the correct category before your permit expires. Restoration has strict deadlines and limited scope. Once eligibility is lost, there is often no appeal and no second chance. In 2026, this rule matters more than ever. Why inaction is the greatest risk? Programs are narrower. Processing timelines are unpredictable. Officers have broader discretion. Waiting to reassess your pathway, assuming approvals will come later, or relying on outdated information can quietly eliminate your options. Opportunities still exist, but only for those who plan early, verify eligibility carefully, and adjust expectations to today's reality. The system has not ended pathways. It has ended tolerance for delay and assumption. Canada's silent crackdown: why migrants are suddenly losing work permits. In recent months, many Indian migrants in Canada have found themselves in a troubling situation. Their work permits are expiring, and renewals are delayed, leaving them unable to work or access essential services. This silent crackdown is causing significant distress among the Indian community across Canada, creating uncertainty for thousands of individuals and families who once thought they had found stability. The growing problem: thousands of Indian nationals working in Canada, particularly under the Temporary Foreign Worker Program, are losing their legal work status. This issue stems from significant delays in processing labor market impact assessments, which are crucial for work permit renewals. Processing times have almost tripled over the past year, going from about 58 business days to nearly 165 business days by early 2025. Because of these massive delays, many migrants are stuck in a state of limbo. They are unable to work legally, unable to access healthcare, and in some cases, unable to continue paying their bills or supporting their families. While they have dutifully paid taxes and contributed to the Canadian economy, the administrative backlog has left them vulnerable. Some have been forced to find work in the underground economy, where they risk exploitation and loss of legal protections. A shift in immigration policy. Canada's immigration system has historically been praised for being open and welcoming. However, recent changes reflect a growing shift towards more restrictive policies. In response to concerns that an influx of migrants was straining public services, the Canadian government has adopted quieter, administrative measures to control migration numbers. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government has already announced reductions in immigration targets. Plans to admit around 500,000 permanent residents each year have been scaled back to approximately 395,000 for 2025, with gradual declines expected over the next few years. In practice, this means that fewer temporary workers are being transitioned to permanent residency, and more are quietly losing their legal status without much public acknowledgement. Rather than mass deportations or headline-making raids, the government's strategy relies on slowdowns, processing delays, and rule changes that encourage migrants to leave voluntarily once their permits expire. Understanding the LMIA process. An LMIA is a document that Canadian employers must obtain if they want to hire a foreign worker. The assessment confirms that hiring a foreign worker will not negatively impact Canadian workers. Without a positive LMIA, a foreign worker cannot apply to renew their work permit. The LMIA process was already considered bureaucratic and slow even before the current crisis. Now, with wait times stretching into half a year or more, many migrants are trapped. Their work permits expire before they can even submit renewal applications or receive a decision. Without a valid permit, they are stripped of the legal right to work, health coverage, and in many cases, their sense of security. Changes to family work permits. To make matters even more difficult, Canada introduced tighter restrictions on open work permits for the family members of temporary residents beginning January 2025. Now, only spouses of certain skilled international students and workers are eligible. This change impacts Indian migrants who had hoped to bring their spouses or dependents to Canada under more flexible rules. For many families, these changes mean making painful decisions about separation, uprooting children from schools, or returning to uncertain futures in India. How to stay compliant. Given the difficult situation, Indian migrants must take extra care to stay compliant with Canadian immigration laws. Migrants must closely monitor their application status at all times. Even slight delays in submitting documents or missing a communication from authorities can result in loss of status. It is crucial to apply for extensions well before the expiry date of current work permits. Early action allows applicants to maintain implied status, which lets them continue working legally while their new permit is processed. Seeking professional advice is another important step. Licensed immigration consultants and lawyers are trained to deal with these complicated scenarios and can help navigate options that individuals may not even be aware of. Migrants must also avoid working without a valid permit, even if opportunities are available. Unauthorized work can lead to serious consequences, including removal orders and being barred from re-entering Canada for several years. Finally, staying updated on the latest immigration news and policy changes through official sources is essential. Information changes rapidly, and being caught unaware can be extremely costly. The silent crackdown on Indian migrants in Canada is a stark reminder that immigration policies can shift quickly, leaving vulnerable communities exposed. While Canada's reputation as a migrant-friendly country remains, the reality on the ground is becoming much tougher for those seeking to build a future there. For Indian migrants, the key to navigating these uncertain times lies in staying proactive, informed, and compliant. Acting early, seeking legal guidance, and keeping a close eye on policy developments can make the difference between maintaining a life in Canada or being forced to leave it all behind. By understanding the challenges and preparing accordingly, migrants can better protect their futures and continue contributing to Canadian society despite the growing obstacles. That is all for today, in this video. See you later, in the next video. Till then, take care.